1944. The skies over Berlin. Hermann Göring, the top commander of the Luftwaffe, looks up, and what he sees isn't a formation of bombers. It's a single small fighter, flying deep over the German capital, way farther from its home base in England than anyone thought possible. Legend has it that's the moment he knew the war was basically over. That plane was the P-51 Mustang. 80 years later, it's still flying, still racing, still getting snapped up by collectors for millions of dollars. And that's not just nostalgia talking. This thing's design was honestly smarter than even its own engineers realized at the time. Let's get into why. Rewind to April 1940. Britain needs a new fighter, so they go to this American company, North American Aviation. Here's the part people skip over. This company had never built a fighter before. They only made trainers, and they got handed a deadline that was basically insane. Around 117 days to design a prototype from scratch. Here's the twist though, because this team was new to fighter design. They weren't stuck following the old playbook. They just experimented. And that freedom is exactly what led to one of the most important wing designs of the entire war. This is the bit almost every other review skips. The Mustang's laminar-flow wing. Basically, most fighters of that era had their wings thickest point up near the front. The Mustang pushed that point way further back. In theory, that keeps airflow smooth over the wing longer, which cuts drag. But here's the honest part. Out in the field, dirt, imperfect paint jobs, even minor battle damage meant that perfect laminar airflow rarely happened the way it did in a lab. Aviation historians still argue about how much real-world benefit it actually gave. What's not up for debate, though? That wing shape freed up way more internal space for fuel tanks. And that fuel, not the wing shape itself, is what actually turned into the Mustang's real secret weapon. Before the Mustang, Allied bombers like the B-17 had to fly deep into Germany completely unescorted, because no fighter had the range to go with them, and losses were brutal. The fix? A big internal fuel tank, plus drop tanks. Extra fuel tanks you could just eject mid-flight once they ran dry. That combo made the Mustang the only Allied fighter that could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back, roughly 1,000 miles round trip from England. That, more than anything, is what flipped the air war over Europe. Here's a detail people barely mention. The early Mustangs, running American Allison engines, were kind of mediocre at high altitude, which is exactly where dogfights actually happened. The RAF nearly gave up on it as a real fighter altogether. Then a British test pilot named Ronald Parker had a pretty simple idea. What if you dropped a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the same one powering the Spitfire, into the Mustang's airframe? The result blew everyone away. You take that already efficient airframe and pair it with an engine that actually performs at altitude, and boom, you get the Merlin-powered P-51 that became the legend we know today. Without one test pilot's hunch, the Mustang might just be a footnote in history. Most people know Chuck Yeager as the first guy to break the sound barrier. What's less talked about? Yeager also shot down a German jet, a Messerschmitt Me 262, while flying a Mustang, a plane that was way slower than that jet. How'd he pull that off? Not with speed. He caught it at its most vulnerable moment, during takeoff and landing, when the jet was slow and couldn't maneuver. So why does an 80-year-old fighter still matter? Head to the Reno Air Races, the fastest piston plane racing event on Earth, and heavily modified P-51s are still stealing the show. One famous example, a Mustang called Voodoo, hit speeds over 530 miles per hour, way past anything it could do back in World War II. On the vintage warbird market, a flyable P-51 will run you somewhere between $2 and over $3.5 million, making it one of the most expensive piston warbirds private collectors still actively buy. That's the mark of a genuinely great design. It doesn't stop being relevant just because the war ended. Built in under 4 months by a team that had never made a fighter before. And 8 decades later, people are still pushing this thing to its limits. If any of these facts surprised you, drop a comment and let me know which one hit hardest. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next.